KFUG Community Radio. It is 6 o'clock Thursday night. Just Paul with you ever so briefly and in pre-recorded form, so let's not get attached, shall we? Last night, KFUG Community Radio attended the Board of Supervisors Candidates Forum hosted by the Norte Realtors Association at the Firehouse on Washington, and had a wonderful time. It was truly a charming evening. Everybody was on, everybody knew everybody else, and it was just it was a small town participatory democracy evening, and we were very, very happy to be there. And we recorded the whole thing, specifically to play for you, which is what we're going to do now. We have the entire offering. It only was about an hour and a half, and everybody got to chime in. The 7 candidates, all 7 of them were there. They answered questions from both the hosts, the Norte Realtors Association, the Norte Association of Realtors, I believe is what it is, and then also some questions from the audience, and just, I don't know, everybody had a good time. It was a lot of fun. I enjoy small town nights like that, and so here it is in its entirety. You can listen for your favorite candidate, see if they're living up to your expectations. Perhaps you'll be surprised by somebody that you didn't expect to be surprised from. The one note. They had a cordless microphone that obviously had some sort of issues. I think it was a dying battery, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't say anything, and I didn't have a replacement battery, so who cares? Anyway, audio was very hit or miss, especially at the beginning. By about 20 minutes into it, we finally had just decided not to use the microphone at all. The room was small enough. Everybody could be heard, but the audio at the beginning of this might go up and down as people try to use the microphone, give up using the microphone, then the microphone decides to work. You get the picture. We did the best we could. We got all the sound. It is all there. It's just not going to win any awards, and the RCA dog will probably walk away from the Victrola. But you can hear the entire forum now, right here on your community radio station, KFUG.
Go ahead and start getting seated. We're going to get this going pretty soon here. Hi. Let's get this party started, yes. So I am Donna DeWolf, and I am the president of the Norte Association of Realtors, and we are hosting this candidate forum tonight. And you might ask, like, why is the Norte Association of Realtors hosting a forum? And that's a really good question. So I want to just start by saying that as a realtor, one of our responsibilities, besides being an advocate for those who are buying or selling properties, is we are a voice for property rights and issues in our community. So we are not Republican. We are not Democrat, we are the Realtor Party. And by the Realtor Party, we are that voice for all people in our community. So we want to, we invited the candidates here tonight so that we can hear what they have to say about property rights, home ownership, issues in our community that may be affecting us now or in the future. And so we wanted to give them the opportunity to voice their stances in one setting where we could all hear it. And so we just wanted to make sure that we put that out there. Hello? My mic went away. It's gone. No? Hello? What? I'm only back sometimes. There's a short. The questions are going to be about property rights, home ownership, community issues. Our format is we're going to allow 3 minutes for an opening and closing statement for each of the candidates to speak. Each candidate will have 3 questions. 2 are coming from the Norte Association of Realtors, and 1 is a random question that we'll be getting from the participants in the audience. And if you want to go ahead and write your questions down, Cindy will be picking those up. Cindy is actually our president-elect this year. So we're going to try to keep our event to 90 minutes. I have a loud voice. And so with that, if we can stand, I want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator this evening, which is Debbie Olson.
I was going to try to sit down, but I don't know if that's going to work for me. Wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight to our forum. We look forward to the discussion today to learn about each candidate. And please remember to silence your cell phones, be respectful of each candidate as they speak, and please hold applause to the end until they've done their closing statements. There's refreshments at the back of the room, over here, and then candidates have their tables set up also. And they'll be available to answer questions afterwards if you don't get your answer taken care of when they're answering their two questions plus the audience question. And I don't know where everybody should have a thing to fill out for audience questions that we can submit to Cindy. We're going to do it up here.
They're in the back.
Okay, in the back. All right. And so you can address those to a specific candidate if you'd like to. So Donna explained the format. I'm going to just introduce everybody real quick, and they're going to do a 3-minute opening statement. So we have Lori Cowan, John Pritchett, can you hear me? Yeah, there we go. Bob Berkowitz, James Ramsey, Kevin Hendrick, Darren Short, and Valerie Starkey. All right, so you'll each have 3 minutes to give your statement. This is in and out, I'm sorry guys. Shauna's going to give a 1-minute warning, a 30-second and 15 seconds. So be respectful of winding down when they show your last time, so you can be respectful of each other candidate having enough time. All right? I am really sorry about this microphone. So here we go. So actually, Valerie will be one, and we'll pass down the line from there.
Thank you. So if it cuts out, I am a very loud speaker, so I will just set it down, and I project really well. It's all the years of cheerleading. So I am Valerie Starkey, and I want to be the next District 2 Supervisor. I want to take the time to thank the Norte County of Realtors for having us here tonight and hosting this forum. Thank you to all of you who are attending. I appreciate you taking the time to come out tonight and find out a little bit more about each candidate's vision for Delaware County. Now, I know you have busy lives, and by taking the time, you've underscored once again my belief that we have so many people in this community who care about it as much as I do. And the music is a nice touch. I just want to disclose something really fast so that everybody here knows, is that I am not a politician. I have no platforms. I don't have agendas. I am a citizen here in Delaware County. I have close to a 50-year history here. My parents moved us here in 1974. So I have very deep roots and lifelong friendships and relationships with people in the community who have and will continue to have the best interest of Delaware County in mind. Now, I know our challenges include housing issues, homelessness, roads, economic development, and the list really does go on and on. But we also have opportunities, and together we can make those opportunities outshine the challenges. The longevity I spent in one career, 30 years as a probation officer, validates that I'm the person who commits to something and sees it through. I believe in outcomes. In my career, this is going to be crazy. This is kind of like the Super Bowl halftime show. It's just gotten really wild in here. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to express some of my ideas with you tonight. And thank you for taking an active interest in making an informed decision this election. Thank you.
Debbie, is it okay if I don't use the mic?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm Darren Short. I'm here because I'm running for District 1 Board of Supervisors. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight and engaging with us. Thank you to the Board of Realtors for putting on this event. I was born and raised in Delaware County. After high school, I went off to trade school and earned my degree, and then my wife and I came right back home. I worked in industrial areas for a few years, but then my wife and I had to make a decision on whether we were going to stay home or move out of the area and try and find a job with a wage we could live on and raise our family. We, of course, decided to stay home, and I went to work at the Department of Corrections and worked there for 23 years until I retired last year. While I was there, I worked my way up into management. I was a captain there. I was responsible for multiple facilities. Of course, we worked with equal opportunity employment, policy administration, the Ralph C. Dills Act, and collective bargaining, and employee wellness, and also did a stint in internal affairs. As far as my local government experience goes, I started being appointed to the Planning Commission, learned about zoning, community development, and permitting process. And after that, I was appointed to the City Council and then later elected to the City Council. Got a volume of experience in collective bargaining again, personnel management, budget management, policy administration, and public relations. Another way I've served this community is I've been a volunteer fireman for over 30 years here. Proud to say I was chosen Fire Officer of the Year 4 different times. I've been an EMT. I'm a state fire marshal certified instructor. With that, I taught at our very first Firefighter 1 Academy that was certified by College of the Redwoods. With that, I mentored and developed other young firefighters in our county so they could better serve you as well. And I'm also I've reached the rank of battalion chief and am serving as an acting chief from time to time as well. Thank you for coming again, and Kevin, you can use that if you want to.
Thank you, Darren. I'll have it.
Thank you all for coming, and thanks to the Norte Association of Realtors for hosting this event. This format is very different from the one last week where we were provided 4 questions in advance and given 1 minute to reply. I told my wife that preparing a concise 1-minute answer was like taking fine wine and distilling it down to strong brandy. In this forum, we were given 2 days to prepare 2-minute answers to up to 23 questions. And we were all just randomly assigned 2 out of those 23 questions. But I had to prepare answers for all 23, so I wish I could go through all 23, but if we all did, we'd be here 7 hours, and that's probably not a good plan. But consequently, my answers today are less like brandy, more like stomping grapes. I may have some sweet and juicy answers, but it ain't brandy. I'm running to replace Bob Berkowitz as 5th District Supervisor because people are tired of the political shenanigans which polarize and disrupt our Board of Supervisors from making progress on our local needs. It's time for a change. It's time to put people over politics. I'm not a career politician. I've spent most of my professional career in public service working for nonprofit groups and government agencies. For 20 years, I worked as the director of the Del Norte Solid Waste Management Authority, when I effectively collaborated with county supervisors, city council members, and members of the public. In this job, I worked with people across the political spectrum. Working together, we cleaned up the county's leaking landfill, built a state-of-the-art transfer station, and developed a modern recycling service. Since retirement, I've worked as a management consultant, including 4 years as a project manager for a solar energy company. I currently work as a program officer for the Rose Foundation, managing a multi-million-dollar grant portfolio funding watershed protection projects. I've had success working on difficult and complex projects. This is the experience that I will bring as your next county supervisor. I have strong, positive relationships with our federal, state, and local elected officials. I've been endorsed by State Senator Mike McGuire and Congressman Jared Huffman, and last week endorsed by the Elk Valley Tribal Council. My ability to work with elected officials and tribal governments is important for the people of Del Norte County to get the resources and representation that we need. I've got 30 seconds left, but I will pass it on to Jim. As well as the mic.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight, and I would like to thank the Realtor Association for putting on this event. My name is Jim Ramsey, and I am running for 2nd District Supervisor. When I got these 23 questions yesterday afternoon, which was the first time I had a chance to look at them, my immediate response was, OMG. How am I going to answer 23 questions in a day and a half and still live my life and do a 2-minute thing on all of them? Well, what I ended up with was panic. So I sat there, of course, I started to write all the answers down that I could, and when I'd gotten through about 12 of the answers, I realized that all of these questions could be pretty much answered by using the same solutions in one form or another. So I decided to take a look at what my overall solutions would be. One of the things that I want to look at is affordable housing. Affordable housing is important because we need to find out that's what keeps the bloodstream flowing in our county, because those are the people who live here, and they do their wages stay here. I wanted to look at living wages. That's maybe to change a paradigm or two there. Affordable internet and broadband, because then you could have in-home businesses that go out all over the state and the nation. Affordable health care, including a psych unit if needed, and it is needed for the homeless situation. Affordable and quality daycare and preschools, because not that the people out doing it now aren't doing a good job, or that the school isn't doing a good job, it's because there's just not enough of them. The big thing what I want to talk about is debt reduction. It's part of the solution. It's what the state of California teachers use. For example, if you teach in a specific institution or a specific place for X amount of time, say 5 years, 10 years, what happens is, and you pay a reduced amount on your debt, that at the end of that time, the State of California Teaching Association pays off the rest of your debt. So, I mean, that's something that can be used in hospital work, it could be used in doctors and so forth. Homelessness is a big issue, empty buildings, maybe flexible rates. Partnerships, which I know are good ways of looking at it, haven't always functioned fully here, and I know that Daily Bread is one exception, but it also didn't always function well. The partnerships that you need to deal with are tribes, unions, building trades, schools, hospitals, local business owners, realty owners, and of course bringing the government together. And that's pretty much it. I will give my other speech afterwards.
Thanks, Jim. Now, Bob.
Well, I've got a slight cold, so I'm going to attempt to use the microphone and the podium.
All right.
No problem. So one of the most pressing problems that we face, or face all of us, well, I see that's not going to work. Okay, we'll go back to square two here. One of the most pressing issues that face all of us here in Del Norte County is affordable housing, as was just alluded to. Whether you are a renter or a homeowner, you are affected. As a property investor, I've been frustrated with how the state of California says they want more affordable housing, but then they do everything possible to make sure that they have laws and regulations that accomplish just the opposite. Case in point, when the state mandates a law that says every new home has to have solar roofs, I don't think they had DNAOR County in mind. They don't take into consideration that not every area gets enough sunlight to make it feasible to have solar power. But it's all part of the state of California's mentality that is, one size fits all. Some landlords are giving up on rentals because the new law says that landlords can only raise the rent 5% per year. Another new law says that landlords can't refuse to accept Section 8 vouchers. And this is on top of other state laws that increase the application fees for the purchase of a home. And realtors know this very well. California is making it more difficult to manage rental property, especially when they change the rules constantly and keep updating the rule book. The bottom line is this: whether you're a renter or a homeowner, the state is making it impossible to create more affordable housing. Take this case in point. Median home has appreciated in cost over 40% in the last 5 years to over $228,000. The average payment on a 30-year loan at 4% interest is $1,400 a month. In order to afford a payment on the loan and get approved by the bank, the person has to make an average of about $50,000 a year. But our average income in DNAOR County is $22,000. So if you have two people with an average income of $22,000, they still don't have enough to be able to make it and get a home. This falls squarely on the shoulders of state government that continue to make laws that make housing unaffordable. So it's time that we elected an activist board of supervisors who will go to Sacramento and press our state legislators to roll back those laws. Made it almost, all right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob. John, did you want to go up to the podium?
No, I'll just stand here and talk, if that's okay. Thank you so much to the association for putting this together. It's an important part of our civic responsibility, and thank you all for coming out. It's a busy night, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say it. We all appreciate it. You know, one of the questions we get asked quite a bit, I think it's going to pop up tonight, is why are you running? And for me, I made the decision on April 9th, 2019, when my beautiful wife Donna and I became grandparents for the first time. And at that point, I realized that I wanted to see a DNAOR County that offers a living wage job, clean air, clean water, a chance to thrive, not only for Maverick, our grandson, but also for his parents and for Maverick's children in the future. So how do we get there? Well, I believe it's through growth. Smart, clean growth. Now, our Board of Supervisors can be a driving force to bring industry back to our community. For example, recently Humboldt County's Board of Supervisors rejected a wind farm. Now, I don't care if it's a wind farm or a widget manufacturer. The key thing is that it would have produced 300 living wage jobs during the construction phase, and then another 15 or 20 once the construction project was done. Living wage jobs. I sent a letter to Board Chairman Hemmingson saying, let's invite this company, TerraGen, come to DNAOR County, take a look. Can we be a fit? Will it work here? I don't know, but we can ask, we can encourage, we can provide incentives to companies that are looking for a place to come. Give them a break the first couple of years so they can get established, so they can start making money, so they can put roots down in our community over 1 year, over 3 years, 5 years, and over a decade. As a board, we can build paths to put new businesses in existing empty storefronts. We have so many of them, they've went vacant for years. We're going to be talking about that soon. We can find ways to offer incentives and encouragement to put life in our downtown once again. I'm running for office because I want to see a DNAOR County where my children and your children, my grandchildren and your grandchildren can come and call this place home. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and enjoy the evening.
Hi, I'm Lori Cowan, and I am currently District 2 Supervisor for DNAOR County. I've been here about 17 years, and I've raised my children here, and now have a couple of grandchildren as well. I am running again to continue what I've already started and what I've been working on for the last 3 years. I want to talk about something that I'm a part of right now, and that relates to land and what we're going through. So I sit on what we call Coastal Counties Committee, which is part of CSAC. And last summer, I was invited with about 6 other supervisors from other coastal counties to be part of and sit on in a meeting with the California Coastal Commission. You know, I was really excited to go to this meeting, and the main reason that I wanted to be there was there are 2 topics. One was sea level rise, and the other was short-term rentals. Supervisor Berkowitz alluded to it earlier. What happens all the time, and I've been saying this since 2010 when I sat on the school board, is DNAOR County is not Orange County. But the state of California treats us that way. So the reason I went and spent the whole day and was part of that conversation was a lot of people don't realize that even though sea level rise is a true thing, and it really is happening, it's not happening in DNAOR County at all. As a matter of fact, we have what we have called land lift, and we're going up as much as San Diego is rising. So that's what I do when I go to Sacramento or to Washington, D.C. I talk about DNAOR County and what is good for us. Too often, the state of California, we're dealing with it right now with solid waste. They pass legislation that is really hard for us in rural counties to deal with, or like the sea level rise, doesn't pertain to us at all. So what we need here is a voice, my voice, to be able to go and be there and talk and have these conversations and have them again and again and again. I was in a meeting again with Coastal Commission this past December, talking about it again. And we need someone who is always willing to fight for DNAOR County and who understands our county and understands the problems. I know there's a lot going on out in the world and the state, but quite frankly, all I concentrate on is what's good for DNAOR County. What's going on here? What do the Board of Supervisors, what do we need to fight for at the state and federal levels? And that's what I hope to plan on, keep on doing in the next upcoming election. Thank you. Does it work? You want that?
Should I yell?
There it goes.
I have a pretty loud voice. So we're going to go on to the questions. As Jim and Kevin pointed out, things are a little bit unique this year, or this time for this forum. We did this way just as a more efficient way and a way to get everybody's thoughts on the questions. We had more questions than most, but they're going to be answering them individually rather than everybody the same question. Hope that makes sense. Anyways, you all have 2 minutes each. See if it's going to work this time. Sorry. 2 minutes, and I will start with Valerie. And she picked, passed out 2 random questions to each person. Valerie her first question is, it seems as though criminal activity in our community too often goes unpunished. Would you agree? And if so, do you see it as the leading factor? I'm sorry. And if so, what do you see as the leading factors in this, and what can be done about it?
So I do agree that criminal punishment or criminal activity has been going more and more unpunished in this community. And I credit that to a lot of the changes that have occurred in the last 10 years in the state of California. We've had propositions that reduce felonies to misdemeanors. We've had a restructuring of the prison system. So if you were currently in prison, AB 109 now has you in a county jail. And so what that did is it created this crowding in county jail facilities. And we weren't ready for that. Rural counties were not prepared for that. So we're still trying to find our footing. We're still trying to figure out what it is that's going to be effective in order to deal with all of these changes. I have some solutions, and That would be to, I just want to say, one of the one is a big one, is a grand theft. It used to be $450 for a grand theft, and that was a felony. Now it's $950. So it's still, somebody comes and steals $600 from me, I'm still pretty mad and I still want them punished, right? $600 is a lot to me. So what we need to do then is still encourage them to have to go through some sort of penalty phase. Make sure that our officers are arresting them or at least citing them out. And make sure our district attorneys have the wherewithal to be able to file charges on these. And then come up with programs that are possibly going to be cost effective, maybe a diversion program or something, so at least they're being held accountable. And my second thing that I want to say is that we are not the Del Norte County of yesteryear, right? So there's going to be some onus of responsibility on us as citizens. We need to make sure that we're locking our doors. We need to make sure if you have a doorbell ring, you should protect yourself with that. You should have lighting out in your so that you're visible, and that you need to really make sure that your neighbors know who you are and that you know who your neighbors are. And my time is up. I have a lot more to say.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Hey, sorry. Darren, do you want the microphone?
No.
Our next question for Darren is growth in your district a goal? If so, what kinds of growth would you like to foster, and what path forward do you see to accomplish this growth, or why not?
Growth. Who would like to see some economic growth in our community? Of course, I would. It's tough now. Like Val said, we're not the Del Norte County of yesteryear. We don't have our heavy industry like we did. Light manufacturing is even troublesome to attract to the area. So we have to find ways to create that growth, and we have embraced our beautiful area in our tourism industry. But we have to find ways to create that, to attract that to our area. I went on North Coast Tourism Council's website earlier this week, and they deal with Marin, Mendocino, Humboldt, and Del Norte County and their tourism. Just on the front page of the website, it appeared that Del Norte County didn't exist, and it was kind of troubling. The closest thing they had was the Coastal Trail that went through Del Norte County, but in the links that were on that front page, Del Norte County wasn't there. So we need to work with our Visitors Bureau and work on things like that. We need to continue to work with Humboldt Del Norte Film Council. I mean, we've got a movie being produced right now, or being shown right now, that features our beautiful rivers. It's something that we need to embrace as much as possible. District 1 is largely downtown. We do have quite a few storefronts that are empty, but that shouldn't be our focus. If you go downtown during the day, it's a busy place, and we need to celebrate that. We need to continuously celebrate the businesses that we have downtown. We need to applaud our divas for the work that they've done and support their mission. And when a new business does come downtown, we need to make sure that owner is pointed to the SBDC and gets the training and the support they need to survive. Thank you.
Kevin, do you want the microphone, or you're okay?
No, just tell me which question I'm doing.
What motivated you to seek office, and what do you hope to accomplish during your term?
I used to joke that in order to be a supervisor, you had to be smart enough to do the job, but not so smart, not to. And I think I fit that criteria right there in the sweet spot. I retired from the Solid Waste Management Authority 6 years ago, and I've been working part-time as a consultant, making the big bucks. But I have time, but most importantly, this county has been really good to me and my family, and I have the time and the ability to give back. I have the experience paddling through the political currents of this county, and have had some good success doing that. In my close, I'm going to hit on some of the specific things that I want to accomplish, and I have a heads up that my second question is going to be talking about homeless, so I won't touch on that. But things that I've discovered that's broad for the whole county is we need more affordable housing. We need to have health care for all. We need to have living wage jobs, and that requires community college and 1 minute, and vocational training. I support expansion of tourism. We have great opportunities for us to be able to do that, and I have had experience with that. I do support solar power. Some homes, it is the right thing to do, and it is something that we should be promoting more actively in our community as a way to be more self-sufficient, both solar and wind. And since the state of Jefferson, I have made it my goal to advocate on behalf of rural counties, raising awareness with urban legislators. They don't hate us, they just don't think about us very much. And if we can bring them issues, and not only complaints about one size fits all, but suggestions of things that can be fixed. Lori brings a good example with solid waste laws. There are things where accommodations can be made for rural counties. We just need to work with the rest of the state to make that happen. Mike McGuire has been exceptional with working with Republican senators in other districts, and I think we have tremendous potential to build bridges between Democrats and Republicans to represent rural communities.
Thanks, Kevin. Jim's question is, healthcare costs in California, particularly the cost of care in Del Norte, are high. What can be done on a local level to make care more affordable and in line with surrounding areas?
Well, thank you very much for a very difficult question. I appreciate that. I basically have been a supporter of trying to lower health care in this area for quite a while. One of the things that I like to talk about is that Sutter Coast is a very good hospital for stabilizing you and shipping you elsewhere. That is what they're very good at. They also are very good at giving money to things like Sea Cruise and sponsoring Sea Cruise and stuff like that. When it comes down to keeping business and money here, they're not very good at that. I can sit there and say that there's several situations where if you're in a 70-30 procession anyway, that's what you pay for benefits, and it's about a $1,300 a month program. And they ask you for, thank you. They ask you for, they give you a process that you do in the hospital, and it costs $5,000. If I go to Medford, or if I go to down in McKinleyville, the same procedure costs $1,500. 30% of $5,000 is $1,500. 30% of $1,500 is $450. So you have a number of things where they don't keep you active in that. One of the things that I would like to do with Sutter is sit down and talk to them and reopen the books again, because I know that they've been opening up and saying, no, we're not doing that, no, we're not doing that, no, we're not doing that. So what we have to do in this particular thing is sit down and talk to them. If they're not willing to talk to, introduce competition. Like Urgent Redwood Care, I wish they had gotten up, but it did bring the thing down at the Sutter Clinic, the price down at Sutter to $40, which it wasn't before. So that's basically just a couple of things. You got to talk to them and get them.
The microphone's working again, maybe. Do you want to talk here?
Let's try it. You have a question for me?
Oh, yeah, sorry. What strengths or talents do you have that will benefit Del Norte County?
You know, my motto has always been that we do the difficult immediately. The impossible takes a little bit longer. Let me give you a case in point. When I got here in Del Norte County in 1980, the first thing they told me was, you can't do what you want to do. It's impossible. I went ahead and did it anyhow. And you've probably heard of a little radio station called KCRE. Well, that's the station that I put on the air in 1980. But they said it was impossible. You couldn't do it. And the reason was, of course, is because it had never been done before. Another kind of thing is that in 2001, this county was almost destitute. You keep in mind that we had had 57 mills here at one time, and all of them were gone. And we had to have a way to make up for that lost revenue. So I went to Washington, D.C. with a number of other people who were interested, and we got a thing called the Secure Rural Schools and Communities Act. And basically what it did was provide $1 million for schools in addition to what they already had, plus an additional $1 million a year for the counties. They said it was impossible, you couldn't do that. I've got a little pin here that basically was awarded to me that says, yes, we can. I spent 12 years on the school board, getting kinds of things done. One of the things they said, you couldn't do that. You can't get a congressional office here in Delaware County. Never been done before. During the time that I worked for Congressman Riggs, we had the office right here in Delaware County. That's what it meant by my talents and strengths that helped Delaware County. Thank you.
John?
Yes.
What do you do? What do you propose to do with the empty buildings in town?
Well, there's some of us here that still remember dailies.
Repeat the question.
Can you repeat the question?
What do you propose to do with the empty buildings in town?
Who here remembers dailies? Who shopped here? Okay, so we have some folks here that, I moved here in 91. I believe dailies closed down in 92. So that's been empty for coming up now for 30 years. So it's not a problem that's recent. This has been going on literally now for a generation. First thing we have to do is we have to go to the landlords, the owners, and say, what can we do to help? Is there ways that we can help you put businesses into these empty spaces? I can't imagine that it's benefiting them to have empty storefronts year after year after year after year. Second thing is we have had businesses come into town, and rather than take advantage of these spaces, they build new buildings. Walgreens, CVS, Big Five, all, for whatever reason, chose not to go downtown, take advantage of that. We have to find incentives to put them in downtown. We have to make sure our planning department, in this case the county planning department, is getting hurdles out of the way for businesses that want to come into our community. From what I understand from talking to some real estate agents, talking to some people here in this room, our county planning department does a pretty good job. City planning department's often a challenge to work with. We got to reach out to the city and say, let's work together. And of course, we're also going to go back to my plan to bring industry into our community. Invite them in, provide incentives, some tax breaks to get them in here with some living wage jobs. It's not going to be a quick fix, it's not going to be an easy fix, but we have to address the issue once and for all.
Thanks, John. Thanks. Lori, are you currently involved in, or what have you been involved in the past that has benefited our community as a whole?
That's kind of not fair because I'm involved in a whole lot of stuff right now, being on the board for the last 3 years. So I'm going to talk about one thing that's near and dear to my heart that I literally deal with on a daily, at least a weekly basis, and that's homelessness. And I deal with it in 3 different areas. I started about in June of 2016 working with Senator McGuire on No Place Like Home, and that state funding coming down, and once again, in state fashion, it's not coming down all that quickly. I get a little impatient at times, so we started doing other things. One of the pet projects I had was showers, and that conversation started about a year ago. And again, like all things, takes time. But those showers are happening. They're happening hopefully in the next couple of months. Everybody kept saying, haven't you given up on those yet? Nope, I haven't. And they're happening. But that's what happens when you work with a community who wants the same things and you reach out to people who can make things happen, they happen. The other thing I spoke about the other night, and that's working with our Daily Bread and Del Norte Mission Possible and getting that shelter up and running. For the first time ever, we have mental health there twice a week. That's never happened since last July. We have lockers for the homeless down there because that's what they said they wanted. You know, we were out, we're talking with the homeless and we're finding out what they need, and we're figuring it out. We have alcohol and other drugs down there as well, twice a week. They're doing meals 5 days a week. And in the whole, while all this is going on, we're also getting the building up to code so it can become a 24-hour shelter. So that when someone's camping down in Front Street and the city's having a problem with it, they can move them to the shelter. Those are just that's just one of the things I'm working on. I work on a lot of different things. I want to continue to work on things, but that right now is something that's very near and dear to my heart, is to help and get everything cleaned up. Thanks.
Thank you. So that's end of the first question. So has everybody submitted questions for them, written down questions that they might have? That'll be after the second question. Okay. So Cindy, you're going to go around and select it. Cindy, right, please. I think there's a box for him too.
There's a box in back on the table in the entry there. Okay, slide it in.
There she goes. So, and if anybody wants to get up, stretch your legs, there are refreshments too. We can take a little break, or are you ready to go ahead with question 2? Ready for 2?
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So Valerie, question 2. What goals do you have for your term, and what specific revenue generating or cost cutting measures would you propose to meet these goals?
So one of my first goals, and probably my prominent goal, is to make sure that the people in District 2 know that I am working for them, that I have their best interest in mind. They call me, they need me to respond to something. That's something that I'm going to be doing. I'd like to also spend time focusing on early childhood development. The numbers are there to support the fact that there are more incarceration rates that are directly correlated to a lack of early childhood development. So I want to make sure that we're spending time and energy on those options. I'm just going to make an announcement tonight. My parents don't even know this yet, but they're elderly. And they don't know? No, they're here. Surprise! Surprise!
We have some bad news for you.
And another quick surprise for them is that they're the luckiest parents in town, because both my sister and I are here to take care of them along with some grandchildren. But that's not happening with all of our elderly, right? One of my good friends is up for it tonight, but her parents live here, but she lives in San Jose. But she's fortunate because she has her friends up here to help take care of her parents when she's absent. But what we need to do is we need to identify those people who don't have the family structure that's available. And we need to start developing services so that we're taking care of all of our elderly people. I also want to touch upon the fact that I really am interested in helping with the homeless teenagers. There was an article that Jessica did last week that said about 240 homeless identified teenagers in this community. I want to make sure that we are identifying them. We're actually providing services for them to make it as easy as possible, because I believe, and we all should hope, that they continue to go to school and they graduate high school. And so that we could have laundry, I am so
Thanks, Valerie. Aaron, we know our little north coast corner is unique from the larger southern parts, and often legislation is statewide. What will you do to set Del Norte County aside so that we are not affected by policies intended for more populous, more affluent, and/or different climates?
I'm not going to run out of time on this one.
I'll take it, Jared.
It's been said many times that relationships are important. Our board currently participates in CSAC. That's our Association of Counties, that is a voice for us at the state level. But at the same time, there is no substitute for a friendship level relationship with our state and federal legislators. And I believe in that. You have to understand that just picking up a phone and talking to somebody that you don't know or have never met face to face does not carry any weight. So I believe that we have to meet face to face with our legislators. Excuse me. Mike McGuire was mentioned here tonight. He called me a few weeks ago talking about my campaign because we had worked together on the No Place Like Home committee as well. Curious as to how it was going, and it was neat because we had worked together. He knew who I was, and I knew who he was. He asked me about what people were concerned with as I knock on doors. He's like, give me the top 3, and so we talked for a while, and it was that personal connection that made my presence in Del Norte County matter to him. So with that, I think that is how we're going to make a difference, is make those trips to Sacramento, get face to face with our legislators, and make that connection so we can make a difference up there.
My wife told me I need to stand up. I always listen to her.
What do you think? You want to come up to the podium?
No.
Are you okay?
It's a step too far.
All right.
That's cheating, having your wife text you on the phone.
She's feeding me the answers. Don't start the clock yet.
You're good. Okay.
Go ahead.
What do you propose to do about the transients taking over some neighborhoods in the county and the drug and mental health issues that accompany the problem?
First thing we have to keep in mind that homeless people include children and families and veterans and seniors. These are people that are in our community. They're living here without homes, and we can solve that problem. So it's one of my top priorities is to focus on developing more affordable housing so that our youth can afford to have a place to live, and that other people have places that they can live. I seriously support and appreciate the expansion of the emergency shelter to a 24-hour shelter. That's going to go a long way in helping stabilize people. I support the Hope Village, which the True North network is developing, where they are looking for property to put down some wooden structures so that you can start stabilizing people. It includes wraparound services for mental health and substance use disorders, which should be treated as that are treatable issues. We need to stop criminalizing poverty and homelessness and mental health issues and substance abuse disorders, and start treating them as the treatable issues that are possible. It's not enough to say everybody likes affordable housing, we should have affordable housing. Specifically, I've been researching the idea of auxiliary dwelling units, which I call backyard cottages. So you can take somebody who has a piece of property with sufficient setbacks and adequate infrastructure, and you can drop in a small house on that same property. It doesn't require expansion. It doesn't require, it's infilling properties that already exist. It's using infrastructure that already exists. And the state of California and the county also is looking at ways to make that more streamlined, to make the permitting less expensive and more possible. And I think there's tremendous potential there. It's not enough to say you're for affordable housing. It's important to start identifying the specific plans to be able to do that. Now, big problems often don't have single solutions, and one of my abilities is to take complex problems and break it down into the manageable steps that we need.
Thanks, Kevin. Jim, what are some of your proudest career accomplishments?
Well, the number one that I've actually done the best is I taught in this county for 17 years. I meet my kids that I have met all over a lot of times, and they talk and say thank you so much for what you taught me and what you've done to me. Not only that, I have substituted for the last 6 years for the most part in the classroom, and I've gotten a lot of recognition for that, and I really enjoy it. But there are other things that I have done that are just as important. For the first time in a very, very, very long time, the Harbor District is in the black for cash flow. We have actually managed to get to the black in that. We've done it through acquiring several RV parks. We've done it through passing Measure C. We've done it through, and the biggest thing that I've done down at the harbor is I was on the committee to oversee the rebuilding of the harbor. So I was there all the way through at every step, and I really enjoyed that. That was my biggest goal down there at the harbor building. There are a couple of other things that I have managed to do with my stipend. I have given off a scholarship to basically dependents of the harbor, dependents of the employees of the harbor, and businesses in the harbor, and the fishing fleet. And what I've been focusing on is how to get these children affordable wages right off the bat. One of the things that I do is I have focused in on the 2-year programs like LVNs, like auto mechanics, machinists. And that way these people can get an affordable living and come right back out and start to leave their money right here in this county, because they're going to live here and work here. And that's what we need to do, is to keep finding affordable jobs. And I guess that's about, the time is up, so I'll just stop there.
Thanks, Jim. Bob, what do you believe are the most significant issues in your district and within our community now, and what ideas do you have to resolve the issues?
You know, one of the things that really bugs me is that by the time we can get resources down to Klamath to put out a fire, everything's gone. That's one of the most important issues, I think, that face the southern part of the district or southern part of the county, is lack of adequate fire suppression. This year, we were able to get at least $1,000 down to Klamath Fire just to be able to update some of their equipment that's been falling apart for years. So that's one of the significant issues that's facing the district. But one of the most significant issues that face us right here as far as the county is, of course, the issue of last chance grade. Several years ago, under the leadership of Chris Howard, we got this ball rolling big time. We got a lot of cooperation from the city, the county, the harbor, and every other district, basically, to be able to get $50 million to start the seed project for this particular problem that we have here in DNAOR County. And coming up in the spring, we're going to move that timeline down from 2039 to something more manageable, because I definitely want to be around when that thing is built. All right. Another county problem that you all run into is the problem of blight and homelessness. As far as homelessness is concerned, I'm going to give what I consider a major solution in my closing, because I only have 15 seconds left. All right. Thank you very much.
John?
Yes.
What will you do to aid in making DNAOR County an attractive place to purchase and own real estate?
A, expand the blight abatement program in the county. I see Jay Serena back there. His first thought was, how do we pay for that? Okay. B, we make sure that the ordinances have real sharp teeth and we're not afraid to use them. C, we use them on those that are causing the problem, leaving the mess, and those that are allowing the mess on their property. That's how we pay for that, the expansion. We've all kind of touched on Sacramento installing regulations on home building that may make sense in Santa Barbara County or Marin County, but are impractical in DNAOR County. Between the sprinkler system requirements and now the solar requirements, that tacks on about $50,000 to the cost of a new home. In Marin County, where the average cost is $1.2 million, that's not that big a deal. Here in DNAOR County, where the median cost is about $225,000, that's the down payment. That's the difference, somebody getting into a home and having home ownership, having pride, and not having it, not being able to get into their own home. The last thing we can do as a community is we got to be better neighbors. We got to expand our neighborhood watch programs. We're a poor county. We can't put a cop on every corner, but we can put a pair of eyes on every corner. And we can use Facebook and the internet like they do in the Birch Track right now. Hey, there's a suspicious character walking down LeClaire. Oh, that's Bob. Never mind. But we can and we must be better neighbors and look after ourselves.
All right, Lori, what ideas do you have to provide for the structural deficiencies we have in our local school buildings?
Okay, so this question has nothing to do with the Board of Supervisors. It's nowhere near a preview or any type of governing that we can do over it. So I'm going to talk about something else that has to do with schooling that is one of my pet projects that I'm really proud of. About 3 years ago, I had a conversation with the CAO of the hospital. Actually, I have conversations with him probably every 4 to 6 weeks. And he said to me, when I was in Auburn, we brought the RN program back, and nobody will listen to me here. And I said, I'll listen to you. So that started the conversation and bringing to the table CR and Sutter Coast Hospital. And all these years later, and so many people I can't even begin to talk about that have been part of this. The RN program is back in Del County. Yeah. Classes started last month, and I am just so excited. And I'm going to invite everybody here Saturday morning, 10 a.m. There's a big press conference and stuff. Senator McGuire will be in town. It is going to be a great event. But that is what is great about our community. We're small enough that we can have those relationships and have those conversations. I think the conversation started in the chamber mixer. We were just sitting around talking. But in working together, there's so many people here who want to see good things. We had the RN program. It was just a matter of what went wrong, what do we need to do, how do we get it back? And everybody just talking it through. The same thing with the homeless shelter. What do we need? What are our needs? What are the homeless needs? How do we do it? And putting those people together and talking it and willing to work together. So I'm really excited. I hope everybody shows up on Saturday, just to give a big shout out to CR and to Sutter and for everything that Sutter has done to put into to bring the RN program back. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. I need to find the audience questions. Where are those?
Yay, you're not done yet.
So just going to be a minute, like to go through. Okay. Valerie, how will your 30-day career in law enforcement help you succeed as a county supervisor?
Oh, so this is specific to me?
Specific to you, yes.
Specific. How will that, okay, I'm just going to give you a little background what I did as a law enforcement, as a probation officer. So I was able to write complex sentencing reports. For example, if someone was convicted of a crime, let's say vehicular manslaughter, and that was referred to my department, I then would research all the information that came about, the road conditions, the actual autopsy reports, all the different things, the blood alcohol level, and all of that. I would then go interview the defendant, and then I would meet with the victim's family. So I'm collecting all this information as I'm going along, and then at some point I sit down with all that information, review it, look at it, and then apply the law, because always there's going to be some sort of law that you have to apply. And then I'm able to formulate a recommendation to the court that takes into account all of those different things. And so I am then making a recommendation to the court based on what's in the best interest of the community. based on all those things. So how this applies to as a supervisor, it's very similar. We have an issue. We have something that we need to get done. So you come in and you talk to us about it, that's going to be my job. We're going to talk about it there. And then we're going to hear the other side, and we're going to get that all taken into consideration. And then we're going to look at the law. We're going to see what is the law, what is tying our hands, and what can we do to get around certain things. And then we're going to look at all of those things. I'm going to talk to my constituents. We're going to get all this information together. And then we are going to collectively make the best decision that works for Delaware County, that's in their best interest. So that's how my specific role in the probation department is time's up.
Darren, with the encroachment of cannabis industry into our neighborhoods, how will you secure and protect our R1 and other residential zoning?
During my time on the city council, we dealt with kind of the introduction of our newest ordinances for cannabis, Prop 64 that came into fruition. It's a difficult subject, but after listening to the people in the community and to the planning commission and to our cannabis working group, we passed ordinance in the city. Well, initially we had to hurry up and pass an ordinance or the state would take over and pass your ordinances for you. So we had to kind of do an emergency, hold on, stop, we're not going to do anything right now kind of thing. But we did go back, listening to the voters, and pass an ordinance that was is minimally, it complied with Prop 64 in the minimal way as possible. We which includes, no open outdoor growing. Any of your growing has to be done outside of the site of people walking down the street. And we believed at that time that passing that ordinance in that fashion would be the safest and most desirable way for the homeowners in our community to accept the law that had been passed. So I would act similarly as a supervisor and pass any other ordinances. I would use that same ideology in passing those ordinances. Thank you.
Kevin, in consideration of our Delaware County community as a whole, what do you see as the biggest gap to growth and prosperity for our residents? How is your district unique from the overall county, and what do you envision for your district moving forward?
I'm timing myself. Thank you. That's an excellent question. I have talked to a lot of people in Klamath, and so I'm going to talk specifically about the things I've learned in Klamath. They generally feel overlooked by the rest of the county, so I'd like to make sure that we're hearing their concerns. They feel like they are not receiving sufficient funds for their senior services, for the recreational services. I spoke with the president of the Klamath Chamber of Commerce. He pointed out that the internet is spotty at best, and how do you run a business if you don't have reliable internet? How can you be a student without reliable internet? Even healthcare these days, internet is an important tool in being able to accomplish that. He pointed out that Klamath Chamber of Commerce is fairly small. He'd love to see, and I would agree, better collaboration with the better funded Del Norte Crescent City Chamber of Commerce, which receives a large chunk of money from the county, to help promote tourist businesses in Klamath. The really exciting project I just heard was a new business starting up called the Redwood Yurok Canoe Trips, where they are taking people out on hand-carved redwood canoes. I met with the Yurok Tribal Council this morning. They're thinking about endorsing me, I'll know on Saturday. But outside there were people carving these canoes, the canoes that are actually going to be used for this business. I mean, it was fascinating to watch them build it. They had two Yurok youth that gave me a sort of a primer, a history lesson on how they use it. And this is a classic example of how Klamath can contribute so much to our community if we embrace the community in Klamath, provide the services that they need, and help to promote them as a tourist destination. This type of heritage and nature tourism is just the right niche for Del Norte County, where we can teach people about nature and also the culture of our community. And these are the things you don't find in other places, and I think these are the things that we can embrace within 2 minutes.
Jim, also, like Kevin, I went off the list, there's some, because there aren't enough questions, so we're grabbing some off the a list that you've already prepared for. If elected, what do you hope to accomplish in the first 100 days of your candidacy?
Well, this is a time for me to start talking about some of my pet projects. For example, started with Daily Bread 10, 12 years ago. They actually started on my front lawn. I was the first place where they happened to stop. And we then started to go on and do a number of things where we fed two days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, out of the gym that is now behind the old ShopSmart building. But at that time it was just an empty building. So I then worked with Mike Justice for pretty much every month, doing a number of things with his secondhand store, helping cook things, do things like that. So what I wanted to see, and I'm very pleased to see all the people working in this community, for example, right now, to get these people Daily Bread into full production. I think it's absolutely great. I want to commend the people that do the showers at St. Paul's. St. Paul's is a very small church, yet they spend weeks, they spend the whole Tuesdays cooking meals, working with people, and getting the homeless showers that want it. They line up at 8 in the morning and are there most of the day. Furthermore, so just all the way that the community has come together, the fact that the Methodist Church wants to work on the tiny house projects and are looking for places for that. Those are the types of community works that we need to foster. We need to get those things together and keep them going. Everything that's going on is great, but we need to address that on almost all issues, because as a village takes a lot to raise one child, a village takes a lot to raise a community. And that's what we want to do.
So Bob, many elected officials take credit for achievements which took years in the making prior to their time in office. Please talk about how the process for government projects works and the challenges and steps to make a successful and sustainable project.
It does take a long time for government to do anything. You probably run into that in your own lives. A lot of projects are started and not completed until another administration takes place or new board members come into the fray. This is typical of Del Norte County. But the thing that we're all focused on as a laser is last chance grade. You all know that. Previous boards basically paid little attention to last chance grade. Case in point. Before 3 years ago, we had not had 1 red cent devoted towards getting a bypass for last chance grade. A lot of talk, a lot of going to Sacramento, a lot of going to Washington, but really it takes people then getting coalitions to be able to make progress. We all know about Kurt Stromberg's parents, killed in the 1970s, going over last chance grade. But what had really been done? Not a darn thing. So when our board took and said, we're going to do something about this, but we need to get coalitions in order to do this. We got Mendocino, Humboldt, Lake, every coastal county supported us. And that's how come we were able to make progress in being able to get last chance grade, a commitment from Washington, a commitment from Sacramento, and a commitment locally, because our entire board was focused on this, and that's what it took.
So John.
Yes.
Two actually for you.
2.
So we'll just do
Lucky me.
2, and then we just got one that I'll ask this for maybe a little bit. Hold on one sec. All right. The first one is, what is your stance on having a 24-hour shelter, and what ideas do you have to help with funding? That's your first one.
Well, let me take that one on first, and we'll go to the second.
Sorry, yeah.
I'm in favor of the Mission Possible project. I had a great conversation the other day, and I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Not Celeste. What's her name?
Daphne.
Daphne. Thank you very much. There she is. She is doing outstanding work. She's taken on this project.
Rachel's back there. Say hi, Rachel.
Say hi, Rachel.
Okay.
It's already zoned for this. And back when Senator McGuire had his town hall meeting, I believe it was in August, I stood up and said, the only way this is going to work is we have to have public-private partnerships to make it work. There's no way government can solve this problem on their own. Nonprofits are limited financially. A lot of times they can't get the initial push to break inertia, but together we can get this done. I'm in favor of the 24-hour shelter in Delaware County.
Thank you. So I guess, I don't know if you have to cut these down since there's 2. And then the last one, I think I'll have everybody answer. But maybe we can do 1 minute or something like that, if that's okay with Robin. On the very last one. Okay, your second one was, how can College of the Redwood Student Senate help support your passionate projects in our community?
That's a great question. Is anybody here from the CR Senate? Stand up.
My name is Chrissy Peters. I'm the student trustee for College of the Redwoods. I represent 3 campuses, DNAOR, Humboldt, and Clement Trinity. And so I would like to know your answer.
How can the board help your project?
Well, I'm actually here to find out what you can do to help us. As a student trustee, we support many projects within our campuses, but I'm reaching out to our community to find out how can we work together.
You hit it right on you said it. We have to work together. And if you go over to my desk, you'll see my flyer, which has my campaign slogan, "Together We're Better." Now, there may be some projects that we can work on, and we can go full steam ahead. There may be some others where the board, or maybe myself personally, is going to say, nope, that's not something I want to do. I've been reaching out to Roy Johnson to try to, congratulations on your nursing success in the nursing program. I want to have the same thing with a paramedic program, because right now, our paramedics, to train paramedics, and Ron Sandler, Delaware Ambulance is here, we have to send them to Eureka to get the training. We want to bring that here, and we're looking at doing it through the internet so that our students can stay here while the classes are there, or bring the classes here. It requires communication. It requires, in terms of what the student government can do, and I'd be happy to, if I'm so elected, to come visit your meetings, and seeing where we can work together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also had 2 questions. The first, well, one was the same one that was just answered or asked of John. How can College of the Redwood Student Senate help support your passionate projects in our community?
I'm with John on that. I mean, it's a matter of sitting down, collaborating, understanding what is needed. You know, first identifying what is needed, like we talked about with the RN program. The other thing that happened with after that RN program conversation started, we went over to the high school, and I sat down with over at the district with superintendent and said, you used to have medical career pathways, you know, so we're not just training nurses, we're training techs, we're training paramedics, whatever it may be, but to get these kids started early enough and to get them through that program, and then the high school working with CR to get them right into classes over there. So that's become a joint thing. So again, it's all of us working together. It's really important for us to educate our children so that they come back. And they can come back and get a career and have a job and be able to live here and raise a family. And I think that's, you know, somebody asked me, why am I doing this? I'm doing it for my kids, I'm doing it for your kids, I'm doing it for my grandkids. It's for our families, right? So kind of the same thing, working together with anything that any pathways that we've started at the high school, and then bring them in over into the college and working together that way, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last one. Oh, sorry, real quick. Can there be more days available for the homeless to do their laundry for free, similar to the Loads of Love program?
Loads of Love is done by Foursquare, and thank you. The one thing that happened a year ago when I wanted these mobile showers, I pulled together 17 nonprofits and faith-based groups into a room and said, okay, I want these, and we have funding here, and what can we do? And we all started collaborating, and it was really interesting we ended up with a spreadsheet of who was doing what, you know, Board of Realtors gets tickets, Foursquare's doing laundry, everybody's doing something, the church is doing showers, and we were able to look and talk and communicate together. So we knew what was going on, and I totally went sideways with that. So yes, I believe that when the whole idea, and I'm not sure where they're at on this, is with part of the thing with the mobile showers, we were looking at having laundry facilities with them, but then we started looking at how well that would work. And instead decided to give them tokens or something, so when they came to the showers, to get tokens where that they can go do laundry, not just on that specific day that is done. So yes, I guess that's my long answer to the short question.
Thank you. Okay, so we had one more. We had one question come in. I think I'll go ahead and just ask it of everybody. We can go down the line, and everybody can have a minute because we want to, you know, respect everybody's time this evening. Is that okay with everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
Question.
Okay, question.
Yeah.
I was just going to address to everyone.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you pull me that? We'll try one. Sorry. Okay, why can't, is that better?
Yeah.
No, maybe sorry about that. Why can't a county building be used for the homeless dilemma? Couldn't a new school be constructed and the old one renovated for housing for the displaced people? Valerie, do you want to go ahead and start with that one, and we'll just do one?
Say that again.
Is there a specific?
Yeah, which school?
Why can't a county building be used for the homeless dilemma? Couldn't a new school be constructed and the old one renovated for housing for the displaced people? I'm not sure what old school we're talking about. Is the person that asked?
Yeah.
Build a new school.
We don't like that question.
It's gonna be a hard pass.
I think the vote's in.
Okay, one person.
I will kind of address it.
Okay,
if I
that's
can say.
fine.
No. We gotta go in order.
Okay.
So can you hear that?
So essentially, you want to build a new school or use an old county building for homeless? Is that the gist here? Yeah.
Pretty difficult to answer.
You know, I mean, there's just so many regulations and so many things that need to occur. So, I mean, this is a very, very broad question, and I don't know that I'm going to have enough information to be able to touch upon it and do it any justice whatsoever. But I know that we've looked into the old juvenile hall even as some place to perhaps house homeless. So there's obviously, I know that there's been studies done, there's been work done, but you have to then, you get in any kind of old building, you have to look into the asbestos, you have to look to make sure that they're up to code on various things. So to use an old building to house the homeless might not actually work. And then the school thing kind of threw me for a loop to build new school buildings. I will always be in charge, and I would always support new growth in this area, but I definitely, 15 seconds, it didn't come fast enough.
You don't have to use it all.
I'm gone.
There's no penalty for being short. That didn't come fast enough. Come on.
I'm just as
Piggyback on what
maybe
I
lost
said.
as Val was, but I was just thinking about when my aunt and uncle moved back to town. They were renovating their house, and my uncle's philosophy was anything is possible with time and money. So yes, we can renovate probably any building in town, but what Del Norte Mission Possible is struggling with right now, I shouldn't say struggling, they're working through it. They're working through it. Sprinkler in the building, getting drop ceilings in, that kind of thing. So yes, can renovation happen? Yes. The specifics of what building we're talking about, I'm not sure, but yes, anything is possible.
I think this question underscores how sometimes people are confused. All government is the same. Money is not interchangeable. School money is not used for other things, and vice versa. So it's important to recognize where those lines are, and sources of money have to be matched to the services that are being provided. I have heard that True North is trying to work with the county to have the property where the old juvenile hall is located, that building should be demolished, and that property could be used for Project Hope, for Hope Village, which is to provide a place for these small houses. I also want to touch on the College of the Redwoods, which has a carpentry program. I think how do we work with College of the Redwoods and also with the high school is to have them be involved with building these small houses for the homeless, teaching them skills on how to do carpentry, leading to possible apprenticeships with construction trades, and matching the resources to build the shelters for a low cost, get the property for a low cost, and address the problem by putting all of the resources together. Time is up.
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk to Daphne on it. I've tried to talk to her a couple of times, but she's been busy, of course. And basically what I wanted to look at is that we have, there is the property back by the old juvenile hall, and it's actually the old McCarthy Educational Center. At one time, there's a couple of double-wide trailers put back there that are put together, but it does have a sink, a whole a commercial sink situation, and it does have showers at that particular time. So it's a possibility to use those kinds of things. I also wanted to let you know that one of the big things that I would like to do with the school system in the situation is work with a partnership with trades and so forth to foster apprenticeships and journeymanships and carry it on through the junior college so that when the kids get finished with the college situation, they come out with apprenticeships. So they're already starting to make good livable wages at that particular time. So that's the time for all I got. So have a good day.
Well, I do want to put the kibosh on one thing. Don't even think about inhabiting that old juvenile hall. When I was on the grand jury, that was one of the things we looked at. It was a horrible facility, rat infested. There were just all kinds of bugs. I wouldn't put my dog in that facility. Finally, we got together, and the grand jury came out with a recommendation that we should basically scrap that and build a whole new facility. How did we do that? Well, we got Congressman Riggs, along with State Senator Thompson, to be able to get together. We got federal funds and state funds, and that's where you're getting your new facility, your new juvenile facility. We can do the same kind of thing. I agree with my opponent here that Hope Village and tiny houses, those are the kinds of things that work and will work in this community.
Create a new school, we almost undoubtedly would have to do a bond issue. In this community, over the years, those projects that pencil out have been supported. We can go back to Measure A, $25 million in bonds for the school district for retrofits. Measure F for the fairgrounds. The community, that was 2/3 majority, by the way. The community rallied behind that because they saw the benefit to the community. You're right. There's multitude of issues regarding placing into a building, but thinking outside the box is not the worst idea in the world. And we have to keep asking. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep trying. Giving up is the one thing we can't do.
Right. I love when the building from the old juvenile hall comes up, and I cringe when Bob's talked about rats because, folks, it is being used. The sheriffs are over there, and they're housing search and rescue over there. So I really hope it's not rat infested. Juvenile hall and those buildings are not they do not belong to us. They are the school districts, and they are pretty bad. I wouldn't use those. But the part of the building that is livable, we do have, are using it for storage and other things, but it has been looked at, because if we were to choose to use that for some project, and it has been, then we're displacing what's there, and then we've got to, kind of move it around. There's not really any empty buildings. And that's not to say that that won't happen, but we always have to think ahead, and that has been in the discussions. So, and my time's out, and okay, thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for your questions. If you have additional questions for the candidates afterwards, after they do their closing statements, I think they're hanging out for a little bit, so you can ask them privately.
I got 21 answers to go.
So we're going to move on to the closing statements. So we're going to start with Valerie, and these are going to be 3 minutes. So
Is it possible, because some of us are new here, that persons could say their entire name and their district?
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.
I am Valerie Starkey. My maiden name was Valerie Knowlton. You might know me as that. And I am running for supervisor in District 2. So I am very proud of the strong sense of community that we have here in Delaware County. We come together and we celebrate the good times, and we draw on each other's strengths when we have tragedy hit. So I appreciate you coming out tonight to support the election process, and I truly believe that when we work together, we will accomplish what needs to get done. Now I'm retired, and being retired, I have the time and the energy to completely focus on this job. I'm very fortunate. I don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. My focus is going to be this Board of Supervisors. Of course, I have other commitments. I volunteer as a CASA, a court-appointed special advocate. I have 2 children, and so I'm going to be keeping those children. I hold their educational rights, and I'm very invested in their lives. But as far as an actual job, I will be focused on the Board of Supervisors. I want you to know something about me, and that's I am not afraid of tough jobs. And in fact, I gravitate toward them. I did this as a probation officer for 30 years. I supervised felon domestic violence offenders, all different types of offenders, and I've seen the worst of the worst in some people. As I said, I'm currently a CASA. I advocate for 2 of our 68 foster youth in this community. I was a chaplain for the Sonoma County Chaplaincy Agency. In that capacity, I would show up when somebody had passed away, either by suicide, homicide, or natural causes. And I would sit with that person and be with that person on the worst day of their life. As I said before, and I'll say it again, I am not going to know everything about everything, but what I do know is I have this whole community full of people with resources and a way to be able to draw upon those and help us move forward in a positive direction so that we are creating destinations for families for each either vacation or live, and for small businesses to thrive. So, if you believe I am the right person for this job, please make sure you and people you know in District 2 vote for me, Valerie Starkey, on March 3rd. Thank you.
I'm Darren Short. I'm candidate for District 1 Supervisor. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight, and thank you to the Realtors Association for hosting. As a planning commissioner and later as a city councilman, I gained experience and built relationship that enables me to become a supervisor and hit the ground running as a servant to this community. As a councilman, I was appointed to many boards and commissions and committees. Of those, Del Norte Transportation Commission, Redwood Coast Transit Authority, Tri-Agency Economic Development Agency, and I was also, as I said earlier, on the No Place Like Home Committee with Senator Mike McGuire, where we worked on the homeless issue. In effort to combat homelessness, I also support the idea of Hope Village. I think it's a successful program that we can make happen in our community. Another way we can combat homelessness is to do what we can to fix the mental health professional desert that we have in Del Norte County. I'd like to work with the Director of the Department of Health and Human Services to find ways to recruit and retain mental health professionals in our area. And if we are successful, it will help not only adults, but our children as well. I also will work with the sheriff to increase the deployment of deputies in our area and create a more resilient law enforcement workforce. And this will hopefully reduce crime and reduce the fear of crime, making us a prosperous community. I have the drive, the knowledge, the training, and experience to get it done for this community. And I thank you for your vote.
My name is Kevin Hendrick. I'm a candidate for 5th District Supervisor. Too often people think that government is about politics. It is not. The purpose of government is to provide for the needs of the people who live in our county. It is understandable that my opponent would want to take credit for all the good things that have happened in the county, whether he was involved or not. Most successes are a collaborative effort of other supervisors, county staff, and other agencies. At the same time, it's fair to hold him accountable for all the things that are not working well in our county. This includes growing problems with homelessness, mental illness, substance abuse, poverty, and high rates of unemployment. These are the issues that I will make a priority as your next supervisor. I will work with our elected officials and local groups to put people over politics, including developing more affordable housing that benefits our youth, working families, and seniors, quality affordable health care for all, including expanded mental health services, countywide high-speed internet for commerce, education, and health care, living wage jobs to help lift people out of poverty, free community college and vocational education to provide job training, early childhood development and affordable child care to help working families, prudent conservation planning, and needed highway funds to fix last chance grade as soon as possible. I love Del Norte County, and I want to give back to the community that has been so good to me and my family. We are a tight-knit community where people care about each other. When we work together, there's nothing that we can't accomplish. But it's time for a change. It's time to put people over politics. I'm offering voters a choice. I'm offering voters a change. I'm asking for your vote for the next Del Norte County Supervisor for the 5th District. But that's enough about me. I want to end by saying how much I appreciate all the people that are sitting up here in front of you. People that are willing to step up and offer to serve their county. It is a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful sign for our county, for our democracy, that you have choices. You have choices between some really good, really smart people up here. So I would like to ask you to give a round of applause to all of these people.
Well, how do you follow something like that?
Just quit now.
Basically, what I want to do once again is I want to thank all of you for being here. It's been great talking to you. It's just been a unique experience all the way around for me in particular. I want to take this chance right now to give you a chance to show you some other things that I have done. Okay, I am committed to Del Norte County. I have been here since 1996. And all I've ever seen in here was how the county needs to get working together and get things. When we work together, we get things done. But some of the things that I have done on myself is I have formed a 501c3 at the harbor, which is, if you're not familiar with that, that is a charity. Without that charity, we could not get grant funding to build things that we need to. One of the things that we didn't have the matching funds for was the Tsunami Evacuation Center, which is extremely important in this area, but our matching funds were too high. But anyway, the other thing that we do have is we are looking at an $8 million building project coming through that we wouldn't have without a 501c3. And that's one of the things that I have done for the last 2 years and worked with that. I've done a couple of things. I've been a member of the senior board at the senior center for the last 10 years. And we've worked together to do all kinds of things. And Martha and the board itself is working with St. Paul for the shower day and doing the cooking and the laundry that they do there. So we are really trying to work and be part of this community. The other things that I have is most of my charity funds are all here in Del Norte County. I have done things like I've worked and I've given quite a bit of money every month to Daily Bread, and that's been one of the things that I've done. I run the Grace Lutheran Food Bank for the most part with Ray Shanley. I'm there every day, every Monday from 2 to 4, giving out food to the homeless. I basically have done the last thing that I could take a look at some of the charities I've supported. I've supported RHS both in the food bank and at Harrington House. I have supported just a number of charities and things in this area to build things up. So basically what I want to do is, my one philosophy that I have is government should serve the people and not the other way around. And that's one thing that we need to take a look at and work on. Again, if we work together, we can accomplish anything. So I am going to ask for your vote on March 3rd. Vote for Jim Ramsey for 2nd District Supervisor. I have honest, I have integrity, and I have a commitment to this county as I have all my life. And finally with that, I will end the thing with saying with Paul. Paul says, I look forward to the things when I have nothing, because I know that the Lord will provide for me. I also look forward to the time when I have many, because I know the Lord will provide things for me to people to give to. And my time is up, but when we work together, we succeed.
I'm Bob Berkowitz, and I'm running for Supervisor District 5. I don't want to talk about me. I do want to talk about solutions. For the last dozen years, we've seen more homeless people living on the streets or in their cars. One can ask the question, why is that? As I said in my opening, I believe it's caused by policies in Sacramento. Case in point, San Francisco, where they have a homeless war chest of $300 million, but they have no plan to spend the money on homeless. Many of the homeless people I've talked to once had stable family good jobs. As the rents went up and their incomes could not keep pace with the cost of living, many of them maxed out their credit cards and were forced to live in their cars or on the streets. Now the state of California is beginning to realize that their Band-Aid approaches to homelessness and affordable housing just won't work. Instead, their draconian laws just make the problem worse. So a simple solution is to cut the red tape and allow more granny units on properties that allow it. It would create more living units with minimum expense, but local ordinances will have to be modified in order to make it happen. Another solution to providing homeless housing, affordable housing, is to have the state provide seed money to create more homeless or more mobile home parks. People of modest means can get their start to home ownership if the banks treat these as regular homes and provide loans to get people started. Cost of these homes and parks can usually be purchased for less than $100,000. Payments on these homes would run $600 a month, with park payments around $400. That means two people making an average of $44,000 a year could easily make the mortgage payment and space rent and stay to 1/3 of their income. With just a minor change to the way the state does business, we can mitigate more people going homeless and create more affordable housing. It's time we not only forced the state to think out of the box, but actually took action to crush the box. This can only happen if we elect people to the board who will go to Sacramento and make positive change happen for Del Norte County. I've been there, I've done that, you've heard my story. I hope that you'll re-elect me to Board Supervisor, Position 5.
My name's John Pritchett. I'm running for District 1, Del Norte County Board of Supervisors. And Kevin, thank you for your kind words. You are absolutely right. This is a quality group of candidates you have to choose from. I was raised in large part by my grandparents. They came out west in 1937, escaping a played-out farm in the middle of the Dust Bowl in the middle of the Depression. My grandfather, who was the biggest influence of my life, went to work in the woods, first as a faller, then as a truck driver, and then as the night watchman at the mill. He was a man that only got through 8th grade, but what he lacked in education, he more than made up for in wisdom. And it was him that taught me, you have to give back. You have to give back to your faith. You have to give back to your family. You have to give back to your friends, and you have to give back to your community. Since coming to Del Norte County some 29 years ago, I've tried to live up to that motto. I've tried to give my time, my talent, and my treasure to this place that has treated me so well. I've tried to do that as chairman of the Del Norte County Planning Commission and as chairman of the Del Norte County Fish and Game Wildlife Advisory Commission. I'm trying to do that now as president of the Del Norte County Fair Board, Del Norte Fair Board. I've served on the Senior Center Board, along with the Warrior Booster Club, which was a lot of fun, and on the Del Norte County, Crescent City Del Norte County Chamber of Commerce Board. I truly believe that I have something to offer as a member of the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors. Experience, vision, and a belief that our best days are in our future, because together we're better. Thank you to the association for having this tonight, and thank you all for coming out tonight. And don't forget, Del Norte's playing a playoff game tonight at the high school. Thank you.
I'm Lori Cowan, and I am currently your supervisor in District 2. I'm seeking re-election to continue and to keep moving forward on what my record shows, what I've been working on. And the things that have been happening over the last 3 years are big things. I've had a major part, along with so many other people, in Last Chance Grade. I have walked that grade. We now have had 3 different state directors of Caltrans, and every time I've walked the grade with them. I walked it with Malcolm, I walked it with Lori. Every time someone new comes in, we're on the phone saying they need to see it. They need to be here, they need to understand it. And I'll be walking it again in April with the newest state director. I've been really blessed to have created and evolved around these relationships, these partnerships at state and federal level. I was just in Eureka this weekend. I wanted to get away. I took the grandkids to the zoo, and I ran into Rob Christensen, and that was McGuire's old age, and it was great to see him and his mom. And then I ran into Sebastian Cohen, who used to be the project manager on Last Chance Grade, and just running into people, and those are the, someone talked about it earlier, being able to pick up the phone. There was an issue with our roads department, and they were all leery about something, and I'm like, well, I know somebody at Federal Highways. I don't know if he can help us, but let's just call him. Well, so we do, and oh yeah, my team makes that decision. Those relationships, being able to have those are extremely important for us in this small town. And that's what you have if you vote for me. You've got 3 years of really good relationships and my record of what has happened. People talk about not being a politician. I'm the worst. I do not talk about what I do. My own kids half the time don't know what I'm doing. And I have had women around me forcing me to talk about myself for the last 5 months. And it's been the most hardest and difficult thing to do. But I have done a lot. It's made me realize how much I've given to this community. I was taught like John, and I teach my kids, you give back, and you don't say a word about it. You just give back, and you don't take credit. And that's how I was raised, and that's how I raised my kids. So I'm really bad about being a politician. I sit on many, many boards, and I try to get involved and give it, I don't try, I give it all my, everything. I don't care how small the problem is, I give it everything I've got. I have no problem asking, I have no problem hearing no. So, I just want to have the opportunity to keep moving forward. I think I am your best choice. I know I am your best choice for District 2. I don't think it, I know it. Because I know what I've done, and I know what I can do moving forward. Thank you. And thank you to the board for having all of us out here. And for all of
So that
That wraps everything up.
I want to thank you again for all participating. We know it's not easy to run for office, and it's not easy to sit up here and answer questions for 2 hours, and only 2 questions when preparing for 23. We really appreciate you taking this time to do this. And we appreciate that you're all willing to make that personal and professional sacrifice just because you care for our community. So we want to thank the audience for participating as well, and you can meet the candidates and ask them questions that you have. And just remember to go out and vote on March 2nd. March 3rd. Sorry, don't vote on March 2nd.
And there it is in its entirety, last night's Board of Supervisors Candidates Forum presented by the Norte Association of Realtors at the fire station on Washington Boulevard here in Crescent City. And I'm sure you heard it. Everybody was joking with everybody else. They were whispering to each other. It seemed like kind of sort of a close-knit group in that everybody up there, it doesn't seem to matter who gets elected or re-elected to the 3 seats, Districts 1, 2, and 5 that are up for grabs this time around. I think the future of the Board of Supervisors looks like a more cohesive scenario than has been evident the last 8 years or so. No matter who gets elected, I think they'll be able to work together, and that gives me hope for our county. I hope it does you as well. Well, that's it. We'll be sure to tune in to KFUG Community Radio in the 2 weeks before the Super Tuesday primary. We've got Darren Short coming up on community service. That's happening this Friday. Next Friday, the last Friday of February, the last Friday before the primary, we've got Bob Berkowitz. And those 2 candidates are the last 2 of the 7 candidates. We will have gotten them all on the air at KFUG. If you would like to listen to any of those interviews, they are all posted on our YouTube channel. Just search KFUG Community Radio on YouTube, and you will find them very quickly. They're at the top of the pile. But like I say, there are longer interviews, about an hour or so. If you didn't get the information you wanted in the 2 or 3 minutes talking time that each candidate had for each question in this forum and in the previous True North forum from a couple of weeks back, then you can really dig deep with the interviews from your friends here at KFUG Community Radio for Crescent City, Del Norte, and beyond. We'll catch you again later. Thanks for listening, everyone.